Hello, Complete Health Revolution family. Thanks for joining me. Today we are going to talk about the hidden factors of eating more ultra-processed foods and how they're linked to higher health risks. So for those of you that I don't know, I'm Jen Beck. I'm a mind-body transformation expert. And over the last 25 years, I have guided thousands of women to transform their health. I help you eliminate overwhelm, exhaustion, and self-sabotage, so you can release both the physical and the emotional weight and live a genuinely happy life. So today, like I said, we're going to talk about the hidden dangers of ultra-processed foods and the impact that's on our health. So imagine this. You've had an incredibly hectic day and you reach for a quick snack, maybe a bag of chips or a microwave meal. It's convenient, but have you ever considered what's actually in these foods? You know, I've been there I've been there too. My diet in my early 20s consisted of fast food. Breakfast was typically a coffee, a bagel, a bowl of cereal, or maybe a granola bar. And lunch was fast food. There was at least one, if not two, Diet Mountain Dews throughout the course of my day. And then dinner was usually like a lean cuisine or something like that. I was in my 20s. I didn't know how to cook. I just dealt with what I could. Right? The challenge is that like the convenience is really tempting, but the aftermath, you feel sluggish or bloated or just kind of off. And for me, it was like I was living from one fix to the next, to the next, to the next. And I had a pretty big wake-up call. My mom went from living on her own to living in a nursing home within 6 weeks at the age of 49. And she had multiple sclerosis my entire life, but she had been on all the preventative medications to make sure that that didn't happen. Fast forward a bit, I met a woman who had MS for the same amount of time as my mom, and she was virtually untouched. Her husband had been leading a conference talking about the healing benefits of superfoods. And during his talk, he was talking about how she had had MS and 26 years, just like my mom. And when they were at the reception later that night, they were waltzing across the ballroom. My mom had been walking with a cane since I was probably 7 or 8. And I got a chance to meet this woman. I'm like, what drugs are you on? Because your results are so much better than my mom's. She needs to be on whatever you're on. And she looked at me confused and she goes, oh, I'm not on any drugs. My husband didn't believe in them. Her husband was a pharmacist. And I said, what? And she goes, no, population studies were too short and too small. And side effects basically outweighed the benefits. So what did you do? She goes, I just built my body up with diet, supplements, and exercise. 3 things that my mom never did. We grew up in the Midwest in the 80s. And like, if you can relate to this, just give me a thumbs up or put me in the comments. We had lots of hamburger helper, tuna noodle casserole, and Salisbury steak out of the freezer, a can of green beans, a can of cream corn, instant potatoes, right? She did the best that she could trying to make a balanced meal, but it wasn't nutritionally dense, at least not the way I understand it to be today. So I ate all the processed foods and the convenience foods and things like that. And that's how I was living until my mom had this health relapse. And this, talking with Dr. Sesser's wife, it got me thinking, like, what if my mom had done what she had done? Because she did diet, supplements, and exercise. And so I researched, does changing your diet or improving your diet really have an impact on your overall health? And come to find out, it does. I mean, the more research I did, the more I saw people reversing MS and heart disease and cancer and diabetes and fibromyalgia and literally every disease that I thought was a life sentence. These people are reversing by changing their diet and lifestyle. That's actually why I went back to school for nutrition almost 25 years ago now, and have been helping people reclaim their health and recharge their lives since. Now, I will say it was not an overnight overhaul for me when I started making changes. It was one baby step at a time. So today, what I want to give you is an overview of maybe some of the hidden dangers of processed foods. There's actually an article that just came out a couple of weeks ago talking about, and I'll link it below, talking about how dangerous these ultra processed foods are. They can increase our risk by like 30% of different diseases. So Is it really worth the convenience? I would say no. Does it mean that it's an easy change to do instantaneously? No, and I wouldn't encourage you to do that. But it's a matter of creating upgrade after upgrade after upgrade. So let's dive into really looking at what the dangers are today. And what are ultra-processed foods? Ultra-processed foods are really looking at, they're the foods you see on TV. They're the things that you see on the food store shelves. Ultra-processed foods are industrial formulations that have at least 5, if not more, ingredients and contain additives and sweeteners and artificial colors, things that you see that have a shelf life of like 7 years or more. I think Twinkies have like a 17-year shelf life. So those are absolutely considered ultra-processed foods. What happens when we consume these, though? So when we're looking at obesity and weight gain, studies have shown that when we consume high amounts of ultra-processed foods, we tend to gain more weight over time. There are multiple factors for this, including the storage of toxins that are in our fat cells. They tend to have a lot less fiber, so we have more blood sugar instability, which drives higher insulin levels, which tells our body to store fat. And it drives inflammation, which tells our body to store fat. And it doesn't make it easy for our cells to absorb nutrients. So now we're overfed and malnourished at the same time, leading to obesity and weight gain. There's been tons of research on the link between ultra-processed food consumption and cancer risks, especially colorectal and breast cancer. And then we've got heart disease and diabetes. The high intake of these ultra-processed foods are increased risk of diabetes and heart disease. And then there's also a connection with depression and anxiety. And again, there are multiple factors to this, whether it be because the blood sugar fluctuation, decreases in our overall health. There are certain people that are sensitive to many of the ingredients, the preservatives, and the colors in ultra-processed foods, which drive ADHD symptoms, anxiety, and depression, not to mention the impact it has on our gut. And our gut is where all of our serotonin is created, or at least most of our serotonin is created, which is our feel-good hormone. So there's so many factors that ultra-processed foods are impacting our overall health. So let's look at some common ultra-processed foods. Things like sugary cereals, sodas, prepackaged snacks, and ready-to-eat meals. Now, I want to pause for a second, and I want you to consider how many of these foods that you eat on a daily basis. And in my opinion, more importantly, how many your kids are eating. You know, when I was a kid, we had one fat kid in the class. Today, 50% of our kids are overweight. 30% have diabetes, type 2 diabetes, which used to be an adult diabetic. And so we have this massive health epidemic. And I truly believe much of it is linked to the processed foods that we eat. And again, it's going back to the convenience and looking at all of the marketing and all of the opportunities that we have to make life easy and fun and exciting. Like, food manufacturers are brilliant. There is a book out there called Salt, Sugar, Fat. And it is, or salt, fat, sugar, sugar, fat, salt. Sorry, it's those 3 words. But in that book, they talk about the bliss factor, how food manufacturers have gone and spent millions of dollars before they launch a new product in research and development. And what are they looking for? They're looking for the bliss factor, the exact combination of salt, sugar, and fat to make your brain light up, the right colors to be able to make it fun and exciting, to make us addicted to their foods. And then we have all the TV commercials, which make us go, oh, if I just eat that, then I'll have fun. If I just eat that, my kids will be happy. And so we are getting this unconscious programming through advertising. And then we eat the food and we do feel better. And we go, oh, the holy grail of health and happiness, or life and happiness. But we're not recognizing that these foods are really actually causing the amount of damage that they are, because many of us are so busy going through life And even those of us that are doing better, we don't really recognize how much we're still taking in that is not in our best interest. I was talking with somebody a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about making healthier choices. And she's like, I'm doing really well. I had for lunch, I had yogurt, and I had berries, and I had a handful of chips, but it was only it was like one little cup, and that was it. And so I'm doing really, really well. And in the grand scheme of things, in comparison to going to a fast food restaurant, yes, absolutely you are. In the grand scheme of things of our health, though, I see a lot of challenges with that. Most of our yogurts are made with non-organic and not grass-fed dairy. So there's a lot of omega-6s that drive inflammation. And they have a lot of sugar added to them unless you're eating a plain yogurt, which most people aren't opting for plain. And so now we have preservatives, we have the sugar, a lot of them have coloring agents in them, and we're getting inflammatory dairy from that. So that's 4 counts against our health from something that we're eating that's healthier. And the food manufacturers are like, oh yeah, absolutely. Eat 𝗥𝗶𝗵𝗵𝗇. 3 servings a day will give you all the probiotics your body needs. But they're not talking about the damage that's there too. And yes, a cup of chips is better than a bag of chips. And we're still talking about chemicals. We're still talking about rancid fats. We're still talking about other things that it's not in our awareness because we see the front of the packaging, not the back. And we're being sold that we want fun foods and we want fun in our mouth. And it's quick and easy and it's delicious. And there's healthier versions of junk food still. So we've got to look at the big picture of things. And I understand that that is a lot of information to take in at one time. If you're somebody that has been typically eating more processed foods, more restaurant foods and things like that. So I don't expect you to overhaul everything tomorrow. What I do want to do though is raise your awareness and give you a couple of things that you can start doing today. One of them is just to start reading the ingredients. The marketing is on the front. The facts are on the back. So when you look at a product, don't read whatever health claim they have on the front. Turn it over and look at the ingredients. If there are more than 5 ingredients, make sure that every one of the ingredients is a food. If there is a long list, I would say put it back on the shelf. It's likely ultra processed. If there are a bunch of words on there that you don't understand, I would probably say put it back and see if there's something that is a better version of that has fewer ingredients, that is more organic. Kroger is popular here in Cincinnati, and they have their Simple Truth brand. And Simple Truth is removed 101 of the most toxic additives added to processed foods. So is it organic? Is it perfect? Is it still processed? Yeah. So it is still processed and it's not ideal, but it's way better than the other things that are out there. So, and I'll put a link to their list of the 101 ingredients in the comments below so that you have that as a quick reference. If you see those in the ingredients, just put it back on the shelf and find something that is a tad bit better. If you're looking at things like sugary cereals, when we were kids, my mom did have a rule. We couldn't have cereal if it had sugar in the first 3 ingredients. So mom would allow us to buy cereal, but it wasn't sugared cereal. And then we had a bowl of sugar on the table and we could add 1 or 2 teaspoons of sugar to our bowl of cereal. Here's the crazy thing. 2 teaspoons of just pure sugar is still less than what 90% of the cereals have in them. That's only 8 grams of sugar. And most cereals have 10 to 20 grams of sugar per serving. And a serving is only like a little cup. So read the ingredients, look at the sugar content. Opt for oatmeal with fresh fruits instead of a bowl of cereal. Or my personal favorite is taking and making like an egg bake where you've got lots of veggies and some eggs. And so you've got protein to start your day versus a high carbohydrate hit first thing in the morning. Replace sodas with infused water, or like you're adding fruits and herbs and vegetables to your water, like coconut coconut water with cucumber and lemon in it, or herbal teas. Or even if you're looking for a soda and you really feel like you're not willing to give it up completely, go to something like 𝗡𝗡𝘂, which is flavored with stevia. It doesn't have all the colors and all the other additives in it. It's probably the cleanest soda you're going to be able to find, 𝗡𝗡𝘂. And then change over your packaged snacks and try to do more whole fruits. It's a huge upgrade because it's something that's still alive and still has nutrients in it versus the dead foods that are sitting on our store shelves. Okay. Planning meals will make it so much easier to control the ingredients and to be able to make healthier choices. I have a list in my phone of all of the brands that I trust and what are the products that we buy from them if I'm going to get a packaged food. I have a 9-year-old, so we've got school lunches to consider, snacks, all of the things. So I try and buy the healthier version of what her friends have and include fruits and vegetables with every one of her meals so that we're creating more nourishment, not just filling her belly. And so it takes a little bit of planning. It takes a little bit of preparing. But I will tell you, my clients call me the queen of the kitchen hacks because my goal for myself is to live my life feeling amazing without living in the kitchen all the time. I swore off cooking until I was almost 30. So for me, I had a learning curve and I still don't love being in the kitchen, but I love good food. I love how I feel when I eat well. And I love to make things simple and easy. So if that is something that you are, that you struggle with too, put meal planning in the comments and I will shoot you a resource that you can have that will help you to make that easier. Okay. So just put meal planning in the comments below. And I would love to know, like, what's your favorite healthy swap? Do you have one? When you've been on your journey, your health journey, are there certain things that are upgrades for you? Whether that is a gluten-free option, whether it's swapping a snack for a piece of fruit, whether it's a meal planning trick that you have, maybe it's you've elevated 1 degree. That's really all we're looking for is a 1 degree shift that's going to add more nourishment in and crowd out more of the bad, right? And there's a time and a place for everything. I'm not a purist. For me, 90% of my diet is really focused on nourishment and whole foods and feeling awesome. And the 10% of having an occasional glass of wine or a little bit of, I do vegan ice cream. I don't do any dairy at all, but a vegan ice cream, which still there's some lovely options out there. Or going out to a restaurant. Restaurant meals are far from perfect. So I try to cook most of our stuff at home, but I do like being catered to and going out and enjoying a meal with friends and just having a night off of cooking. So what are some of the upgrades that you've done that have really worked for you? And if you have specific questions, like drop them in the comments or send me a DM. I am absolutely happy to support you. That's what I'm here for. Okay. And so if we look at what are some of the benefits of making these swaps of crowding out the ultra processed foods by upgrading the quality of what we're eating and really looking for how do I create more nutrition, more nurturing and nourishment in my diet with these changes? And it will lead to increased energy and decreased fatigue. So often we have this spike and crash when we eat processed foods because there's very little fiber, there's a lot of sugar, and there's not much nourishment in them. And when we really fuel our body with its ideal fuel, we feel amazing all day long. We have better moods. When we eat whole foods, we have a better mood. It helps to decrease symptoms of depression and anxiety. And really adding in whole foods will help you maintain your weight much, much easier because we've addressed all the other reasons, what I mentioned earlier, that are driving that weight gain in the first place. Many people think that weight is the problem, and that's the problem they need to solve. Extra weight is actually a symptom of something else going on under the surface. There are 12 other physical reasons why we hold on to extra weight. There's 8 emotional reasons why we carry extra weight. So it's really important that we're addressing the root cause. And so much of that is our nourishment. Not to mention lowering our overall risk of disease And like I said, there's the article that I'll post below. There's a 30% increase in chronic disease when we eat ultra processed foods, things like heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. So when we crowd out ultra processed foods, we minimize our risk for those. We decrease that. So I'm curious, are you somebody that has made some changes in reducing your processed foods? Have you upgraded your diet and added in more nutrient-dense whole foods? If you have, what have you noticed? I would love to hear your stories and your experiences in doing that. So just to recap, ultra-processed foods, yep, they are super convenient, but they come with significant health risks. And we got to ask ourselves, is it worth the risk to have that convenience? And by making conscious choices, we can improve our overall well-being. And there are ways to simplify it. There are ways to make it easy, to optimize our health, and to minimize the amount of damage that we take in on a daily basis. If that is something that you want support with, please just send me a DM. I would love to support you and your family in creating the transition and the transformation from living the standard American life. Like, you are not alone in that if you are living on processed foods. Get it. I've been there. I've done that. And I also know the specific strategies to help you make that transition easier, smooth, and get your kids on board with that. So if that's you and you'd like some support with that, send me a DM. I'd love to support you. In the meantime, stay tuned and join me next week, because I'm going to do a live again next week. And just remember that small baby step changes lead to significant results and allow you to transform your health, that allow you to optimize your life and to feel amazing each and every day. And you 100% deserve that. So I'm Jen Beck. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next week.